A focus group today about the concept for a James Bond show. Oh, here's Elliot. Oh, it's good. Get some pizza, some soda. So we're doing a show concept for a James Bond TV show that would air on AMC. Working title Bond, and we're going to read off the concept for you. Now, this is a Bond TV show on AMC. Storyline would deal with James Bond, fresh off a stint with the British Special Forces, in which his best friend is killed in combat by a weapon that is manufactured by a company called Drax Industries. This incident lures Bond to join the British Secret Service, MI6, in order to go after bigger corporations that ultimately led to the death of his dear friend while deployed in Afghanistan. Bond realizes this will be his only chance to be able to make a difference against the larger crime syndicates of the world. During the course of Bond's adventures, he gets a chance to disrupt the organizations of the well-known villains that our target audience will be very familiar with: Goldfinger, Scaramanga, Mr. Big, Frank Sanchez, Blofeld, to name a few. Additionally, Bond will not be given a license to kill, but rather a permit to kill, in the event that he's left with no choice. The job of Bond early on in his career will be to disrupt the flow of these crime syndicates, using the specialized training he gets from MI6 to do just that. This version of Bond would not only be much younger than the film's iteration at 22 years of age, but his personality would make him a very impatient, edgy agent in training. He'd have a great curiosity to learn as much as possible about the enemies he'll be going after as part of MI6. In this Bond, we'd see a somewhat more intellectual side of him and see just how much his intelligence and ability to analyze his enemies is one of his better assets at his disposal. Also, this version of Bond will look different. He's not going to be running around in tuxedos or extremely expensive-looking apparel. Rather, he's going to be looking more believable, like a guy who's getting a start early in his career with not a lot of money. This kind of an element that would be much more in line with the Ian Fleming novels. Additionally, the villains we would introduce would also be starting out in their careers on the flip side, most of which set on their own vision of world dominance. The exception would be like the character Frank Sanchez, who's starting out a drug cartel in Mexico. His goal is to have an interconnected network of drug deals with other global cartels. Also, Mr. Big, who runs his own crime syndicate split between New York City and New Orleans. Other important characters we would ultimately introduce would be the character of Felix Leiter, who's already a trained CIA agent in the United States. Leiter will run into Bond on his first mission to investigate why the Drax Industry Corporation is illegally supplying terrorist organizations in the Middle East with electronic weaponry. Essentially, the concept of the show will be very similar to the hit series Smallville, and that we'll be putting another iconic character at an early point of his life up against the same enemies that audiences were used to be seeing in the established films that came before the TV series. This series won't fall into the same canon as the films, but will utilize many of the same characters to provide the opportunity for new and exciting outcomes with week-to-week storylines. So now that we've talked about the concept, we're going to have a focus group to kind of test what your thoughts are or where it can go from here. So first, I'll have you introduce yourselves. First name.
I'm Elliot.
Brandon.
Michael. Also Brandon.
Joe. Steven.
Okay. So now, in that order, we're going to ask some questions. Now, what about action TV shows holds your interest?
The excitement or connection to the character, some sort of, and I don't want to say driving force because that's what you're asking about, but I guess like how you just caring about the main character enough to want him to do well and then get into the action suspense.
I guess I would say it has to be kind of different than the other shows. There's a lot of like action, like those kind of shows out there. So I guess something that is still compelling. I guess the idea of Bond in a TV show could be that, and definitely Hot Girls is a big.
Michael?
I feel like the action is usually going to be good, like, regardless. So, for me, it usually has to be, like, another element. Like, I usually like to have a unique antagonist or antagonist. Usually the protagonist is going to succeed at the end of the day, but I like to have a fun antagonist.
Brandon?
I guess it would have to be the writing to take kind of that different turn. Like, I feel like there's only so much you can do writing action for television. Like, to get like the really big explosions, it's gonna have to be like a movie. So television is usually like the scaled down version of that. So the fighting's never quite that good. You don't blow up quite as many things. So like the concept, has to be pretty interesting, or else I'll usually be turned off because it's not action movie quality.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really about the. I agree with him. It's really about the concept and also with what Elliot said, like you have to have like some sort of, I guess, following for the main character. And I thought of 24 when he was talking about that. How you like really just wanted to see Jack Bauer do well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess it's basically on the concept in terms of, and it has to be somewhat like. I mean, would you have to have like a heavy following of all James Bond movies in order to like follow the show?
No, it would be something where established fans, they would get who certain villains are if they were really hardcore into the film series. But for new fans, do new takes on these antagonists that can make it fun and entertaining for the new people that are watching the show.
Sort of like our age demographic.
Yeah, and like he was saying when he mentioned the Smallville concept, kind of in that frame of mind where you've got this rogue gallery of villains that get a new take done on their characters, so you don't have to know what their backstory is because we'll ultimately retell it and write them, maybe put different twists on these guys that some might be familiar with and others won't.
For me, obviously the action and all of the stunts are really high importance, but at the same time, I like to have a high level of believability to it, and almost like what would I do in that type of situation? How cool would it be to be that type of character, that type of thing?
Okay, so knowing this about TV, what about Bond films holds your attention? What do you like about the Bond movie franchise?
You know what you're getting. I mean, they're not very different or, captivating every time necessarily, but they're fun to watch, and you usually know you're going to enjoy it no matter which one it is.
Brandon?
I kind of liked, I got more excited when they have a new character playing it. I've seen a couple of different characters. I like Connery, and then I saw Brosnan, and then Craig. So I kind of liked seeing how the new characters play it. Also, like you said, you know what you're going to get with the action film.
Mike?
I think the quality of the Bond babes is always A+, so I like that. And aside from that, I like the grand scale that the battles usually put on. It's never like, like a low-key villain. It's usually like a humongous crime organization with tons of like money at their utilization, so it can lead to like interesting conflicts.
I think he's got it. You just know what you're gonna get. Hot chicks, cars to shoot missiles, vodka, space lasers. I mean, it's pretty reliable.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to branch off of that, all the expensive clothing, the cars, all the gadgets and stuff. It's going to be interesting to see if, hopefully, it comes out. The fact that he's not so well dressed or anything. He's really not much money to start on. I guess it's an interesting twist and probably a lot more difficult one in terms of like keeping your audience.
Stephen?
I guess it's differing, but definitely in the movies there was a classiness type of thing to it, whereas a lot of like he's almost a superhero, James Bond, and all the superheroes are kind of rugged and they have their own like superpowers, but this one's actually like you could teach somebody this and somebody could actually become that. And how well trimmed he actually is, but I think it's going to be definitely cool to see what he was like prior to that and how it all led up to what we have seen before.
And that actually leads us to the next question. So, on the scale of 1 to 5, 1 being no interest, 5 being very interested, describe your interest in Bond's early years from that scale of 1 to 5, and elaborate if you want to.
3.5, 4.
Okay. What would it be that would interest you about that, though?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be just a Bond film just about him coming up. It could be, kind of funny, cool to see. Probably just like the other. I mean, I'm just interested in that as I am in a normal Bond film, I guess.
Cool. Brian?
I would say about a 4. Yeah, like you said, just seeing Bond before he was like upper class with the tuxes and seeing him kind of like grow up would be interesting. Just another point I would just want to say, I feel like the older demographics might not like it as much for some reason. I just feel like they have like established character in their mind. they don't know how they feel about seeing him as like a 22-year-old. They might have higher expectations. They've been watching the movie for decades.
Elliot, you had a
Yeah, I kind of changed my answer to 3 because one of the things that I guess I really like the most about Bond films is the fact that he's just this badass, classy guy who drinks his martinis, bangs bitches and then, shoots people. But if you put him before that, I mean, I guess his character is just going to be different. He's going to be sort of the same kind of guy, but he's not going to have that same flair about him that really makes Bond films what they are.
I'd say probably 3.5 or 4. Definitely because it's relatable to like our age demographics, so you can just imagine yourself a bit older in that situation, which is kind of cool. And at the same time, I just usually like to see characters come into their own. For example, like in Goodfellas, my favorite part of that movie is like his earlier years, and they show him like growing. So it's just like cool to see how a character comes to the point where the most significant plot moves forward from.
Maybe a 2. I don't know. Like we said, like it's kind of a reliable archetype, and that does get boring from time to time. At the same time, I don't really want to see James Bond bumble around like Chuck, need to constantly be bailed. Like I want to see him kick ass and take names.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3 just because I think it would be a lot harder to do in a show as opposed to a movie where it's like, I guess Bond the early years before he was Bond. In a show, it's like gonna be very hard to keep someone waiting to watch the next episode and like see how he develops. I think just that character of the not as cool Bond, I guess, or coming into his own Bond, is going to be really hard to develop.
I'd give it a 4. Some of my favorite parts of movies are always where you get to see the the prequel type parts, the 7 years later, and how much it differs, and I really like that aspect of film.
Okay, so knowing that your varying levels of interest on the same scale, 1 to 5 being 1 being never, 5 being every week, how likely do you think you'd be tuning in to a show, conforming to that, concept about James Bond, his early years?
I mean, if it was actually good, I guess a 4, but if it's mediocre or not, a 2, I don't really know how to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, well, like saying, based off of that concept, you haven't seen it before, sight
Okay.
unseen. Like, would you be tuning in?
Am I assuming that it's good?
Yeah.
Then, I mean, probably around a 3 or 4.
Okay.
I would say like a 4 or 5. I really like 24. I can see it being like comparable to that. So I guess at the beginning I would definitely say as a 5. I would definitely watch the pilot and see it. If it's good, I'll obviously keep watching it.
Yeah, I'd say about 3 or 4 as well. Really depends on the earlier episodes to keep me hooked in, and it'd also be helpful if there were like Easter eggs to the movies and like throwbacks to that, like little references. That'd be cool. But yeah.
Like a 4. I mean, I'm with Ellie on this one. If it was good, I'd watch it. I mean, I'm worried. I hope like the wrong actor, if I saw the actor in my head, I went, that's not Bond, I'd be done immediately. Just be that. But if you nailed it, oh yeah, I'd watch that.
Agreed, 4. Assuming it's good.
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a 2 or 3, just based on the fact that I don't really stick with shows that much, especially at college. I mean, I don't really have time. If anything, I'd like TiVo it and then watch it later, because that's what I do a lot of times, especially at home.
Okay. So, what qualities would you see a young Bond having as part of his character?
He'd make pimp it look easy. Definitely. Be, sort of overly arrogant probably in his early years. He would definitely make pimp it look easy.
Brandon?
So pretty much going along with what you said, like being like cocky, being definitely having game with the ladies, I would say. Not sure what else.
Yeah, I agree with the arrogance a bit too, just because I mean it makes sense that that's how he comes into his own. But aside from that, probably that he's tough but not so skilled, as in he can deal with hard issues or hard times, so he'd probably put themselves into it since he's younger and hasn't been in many of them yet.
Okay. Brandon?
I'm a Craig Bond guy, so I would expect him to be like aggressive and like super badass, but kind of awkward and not good at the swappness yet. Yeah, I like the Jack Bauer description. I would watch like young Jack Bauer run around.
Okay.
Yeah, just a highly arrogant, someone that's always in trouble with his superiors type character who makes Pimp It look easy.
Probably like overly confident again. I mean, but at the same time, I'd love to see throughout the show some sort of progression within his character, where he actually learns from his mistakes. And then also, like in Hitch, the movie Hitch, when they have a flashback to where he's younger and he has missteps with girls, like if they had that type of thing where he actually doesn't get with every single girl that he talks to.
Okay. So on the reverse, in your mind, what makes an effective Bond villain, though? What do you like to see?
Probably space lasers. I don't know. I mean, my favorite Bond film is probably GoldenEye, I think. So, I mean, but I also like, I'm trying to think of the different villains I liked. I like the guy from Octopussy. That was a good one. I don't know really what makes him good. I guess it's really what's surrounding the villain. Like, I hated Casino Royale. I don't know. So, if that helps.
Yeah, me too.
Alright.
I'm not really sure. I guess I would say, a villain who's kind of like can outsmart Bond, but I'm not really sure. That's really all I got right now.
Yeah, I'd say the villain definitely needs to be like intellectually daunting, but not physically, because that usually isn't the way that it goes. But at the same time, that his set of goons is definitely some crazy badasses.
It's hard. I can't. Remembering the villains is really hard. Like, I remember Mr. Big, but I just remember somebody was watching Live and Let Die just like 2 days ago, and that's like the only villain I can really clearly remember. So maybe there's an advantage there. The villains, because you think about Bond and the Babes, and it's just like some guy in a suit, blah blah blah, master plan, blah blah blah, gets blown up, like whatever.
Were you there that night when we showed License to Kill, Friday Night Flicks?
Oh no, I wasn't there.
I thought you were. Never mind.
Man.
That would have been a good.
I don't know. I think it'd be somebody who's like so financially powerful, even like if he got his ass kicked, it like wouldn't matter. I'm trying to think of a word to describe this. Like, like there's certain people who have plans where if they win, they win, and if they lose in a way where they win anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good villain would be one smart enough to take into account the fact that Bond might fuck everything up and might spin it like I see like in Ted Turner being like a good Bond villain, just like use the media or whatever you've got to use to like kind of spin it a different way. But I don't know. I think you've got a wide open door to make an effective Bond villain because none of them are really that memorable.
Joe.
I would completely agree with what he said. Someone just so capable to lose to Bond, the younger Bond, but still win in a way. It's someone that I guess highly connected in terms of could influence anyone and everyone against him. Yeah. So.
For me, like the people, the bad people I can remember are always like very high up in their company, and but they are always like a half step behind Bond in every single category. Like they're not as intelligent, not as good looking, and they're definitely not as physically apt. And they always have that henchman, that one guy that does all the dirty work for you. So.
Odd Job.
Yeah, Odd Job. That's a good one. On a scale of 1 to 10, so it's a pretty wide range, but how complex should a Bond plot be to hold your attention? How complex would you be looking in a weekly television series of the plots?
10 being most complex.
10 being most.
Would you intend to do one villain each season, essentially?
Yeah, you could have. That's kind of what we were aiming for. Have one storyline with one central villain that kind of works itself out over the course of the season.
Okay, so I would say probably a 6 or a 7. I mean, usually Bond movies aren't that complicated. Mm-hmm. Like the biggest twist is that 006 is a double agent, or if someone poisoned their drinks at the poker game, whatever crap goes on. Yeah. I mean, they're not really. You can usually see this stuff coming because it's pretty standard. But I mean, if you have a whole TV series and like one villain for the whole season, you have a lot more time to develop what's going on, and you can use cliffhangers. You can probably make it a little more in depth than the movies are. So I'd probably say 6, 7.
I would say a little more, because there's a whole season. I kind of would want it to be like a lot of twists, a lot more complex. I'd probably say like a 9.
Yeah, I'd say about an 8 or a 9. Definitely like the idea that there'd be like double crosses or things like that. And I mean, like I said before, it's usually like, run of the mill, but there's more room to expand on it, so a little bit more complexity would be good, as long as you don't go into lost land.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I'm thinking like 7 or 8. Like, I think with the action toned down for like a serial style television, I think you're gonna have to hold it together the plot. Like, I especially like the angle you guys were taking with like Bond versus the corporations. I thought that was relevant. So I mean, I would want it to be like really like political and complex.
I'd give it an 8. Something that's really good and just keeping me watching. The more complex it gets, the more interesting and the more I feel I would have gained from watching it for whatever time it is, seeing it develop. So yeah, I give it an 8.
It's tough for me because every show that I like How I Met Your Mother and stuff like that, and 2.5 Men really has no continuity to it at all. But at the same time, one of my favorite shows, Glory Days, that has a storyline to it, and I personally really like that storyline. That's one thing I complain about How I Met Your Mother. It really doesn't connect at all.
Mm-hmm.
But so I mean, in that regard, I would prefer a 9. But at the same time, a lot of shows that are accepted widely seem to not really connect so that people aren't like, oh, I have no idea what's going on, but this seems cool, but I don't have time to watch all the previous 9 weeks that happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what intrigues you about this concept of a Bond TV show? What do you like about it, and what do you dislike about it?
I don't know. I mean, I like maybe that it's a TV show based on a character that I already like.
Mm-hmm.
Could be maybe one reason that I'd be initially attracted to it, and I guess staying if it's good. I mean, what I don't like is, I just don't know if I can see Bond as someone other than this, badass guy, or if I want to, if that even interests me, because I'm not watching. When I watch TV shows, I'm watching Dexter because I'm intrigued in the character, and it's deeper than just him killing people. But Bond movies are just him killing people, and that's what's exciting about him.
Yeah, I would say what would interest me at the beginning would be the prequel part, just to see him, what he was like before he was actually Bond in the movies. But at the same time, I feel like it would be hard, or what I would dislike would be the fact that it would be hard to keep me interested for a whole season or multiple seasons in the same kind of like storyline. I don't know. It's going to be kind of like the same story over and over, I feel like. So I feel like that's what I would dislike.
Yeah, what would interest me would probably be the character growth of Bond himself, seeing how he got to that level, and definitely how there's villains that were already in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would dislike having like only one villain a season. I don't know. I think it could be like 1 or 2, or maybe have like side stories tied in, because I don't know how long the story would keep me interested.
I think with the Bond show, I think you have a chance to expand on the things that we don't normally see, and I think that could be interesting. Like, if you ever watch Archer, which is kind of a Bond spoof that spirals into insanity, like, Archer is really just as much about, like, the wacky HR lady, and the fact that, like, the Q in the show is secretly, well, not even really secretly, he's just completely out of his mind, and, like, and then, the Judi Dench type character is just, like, hugely arrogant and is constantly sauced, and I think seeing the supporting characters, I think you've got a lot of room with it to be good. Because Bond has always just kind of been one note, like Mac and Hose blowing things up, killing indiscriminately. I guess that's what he does. But yeah, I mean, cars being totaled, people getting dead. I mean, that's always fun.
Yep.
What I would find most interesting is just seeing him come into the Bond that we know him as now, in terms of like his much later years, much more sophisticated. So I guess seeing that progress over a season is probably what keep me most interested. What I'm skeptical about is how successful like that'll happen, or I mean, it is very complex into it itself, so it's gonna be hard to stay interested.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that's consistent throughout the Bonds is that he's kind of stone-faced, and he is cold-blooded. Like, he has ice in his veins. But I mean, I think it'd be cool to see him not some sort of psychological replications for him, and like how he actually feels about it before he actually becomes this high class professional. And I think that'd be something really cool. But at the same time, I don't know if that would actually appeal to me. It's tough because it could go either way. So.
Now, James Bond actors, the people who played him, your favorite, your least favorite? Who's in the middle, in between?
the main three I've really ever watched a lot of their films would be Pierce Brosnan, Daniel Craig, and then Sean Connery.
Mhm.
I really like Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan. I don't like Daniel Craig in the role.
Why?
I don't know. It's probably because he's blonde is what initially just
Yeah,
because he doesn't
weird.
look remotely close to him. And I mean, someone else mentioned earlier how he's kind of a little bit shyer off the mark of where James Bond should be. I mean, Sean Connery's one of the suavest men alive, so it's hard to top that.
I've really only seen the latest ones, so Craig and Brosnan. I don't know. I think I like Craig a little bit more. I'm not really sure what it is about him, but I feel it. But I don't dislike Brosnan though. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd say my favorite is Connery, just keeping it classic, but I don't really like Craig that much. He'd definitely be my least favorite. Definitely the blonde thing that threw me for a loop. It's historically not happening, but Andy's just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as badass to me.
Like I said, I'm a Daniel Craig guy. I think his character is so different from previous James Bonds that his movies are always always a little bit more suspense because you don't know he's off the handle crazy. He's just running around jumping through walls, chasing people on cranes. He's just nuts. And he's much more physical than the other Bonds, so he's really willing to get dirty in a way the other ones won't. I find that kind of more interesting. Rather because Bond is pretty one note with the other three. I've seen a lot of Roger Moore. I don't know how. I guess TNT, and I do like Pierce Brosnan. Least favorite, Timothy Dalton is just awful. And I'm not really Sean Connery friendly. I don't know what it is. I think it's always just the people who complain about Bond are just Sean Connery's just a total asshole. Then you laugh, and then you go back and you watch. He's a huge asshole. It's kind of funny. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely go more towards the later Bonds than the older.
So I'm much more of a fan of the later ones. Craig's probably my favorite, just because he's much more outrageous, I guess. Much more out there, much more disobedient kind of in a way. I don't know. Something about that just keeps me a lot more captivated.
For me, Pierce Brosnan is the quintessential Bond. He's so clean cut, but at the same time, I do. At the same time, Daniel Craig, excuse me. He was definitely more rugged and physical, which was a cool, different aspect to what Bond could be. But at the same time, that I didn't like the way he fit into the Bond mold. He didn't really. It didn't seem like a Bond movie.
Okay.
It was more of a different type of style.
Okay, with that, what's your favorite Bond movie and why?
Probably GoldenEye, but I'm biased by the Nintendo 64 games. I mean, I don't know. That's probably that or the one after Tomorrow Never Dies. I thought was decent. I'd say GoldenEye is probably my favorite though.
Ren?
I'd probably say Casino Royale. I kind of liked how at the beginning he was a lot more fighting scenes and him, like you said, running through walls and chasing the villains. And then it kind of had a twist and had him in the poker game, a different side of him. So that was interesting.
My favorite Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know, I thought the action was a bit different. I mean, obviously it's running in the middle with explosions and whatnot, but I thought the battle scenes were a little bit different, and the villain was pretty cool, so that's definitely my favorite.
No, definitely gonna say GoldenEye. I'm with Elliot on this completely. I'm thinking N64. That was the one you see as a little kid is always the one that's gonna stick with you. And GoldenEye came out just as I was a little kid, and that was when it was just everything was so cool, and none of the cliches weren't established in my mind. So everything I saw was just awesome. Though, I mean, giving you the Roger Moores, I will. I mean, though, also for somehow as a little kid I saw Roger Moore on the Muppet Show, which was just ridiculous. He was they were joking about him not being James Bond, but there were all these these Muppet spies, and he would just blow them away with the Walther PPK and throw bombs at him. So it was a weird episode, but I just think back to little kid.
Sounds like that's true.
Anyway, but yeah, GoldenEye.
Joe?
I'm a fan of the video game for sure. That definitely reminds me of my childhood years. But I gotta say, Casino Royale. It's what you see now. You see it a lot more often now. So
Yeah, GoldenEye definitely, because it has a special place in my heart, because N64. But at the same time, again, Casino Royale was like the first one where I could actually understand like a movie where like I had developed, and that was the first one that came out where I could actually like comprehend what was going on. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are 3 products you associate with Bond? And if you can think of the brand names, then if they're applicable, like 3 products you associate with Bond, like it could be anything. Like
Definitely video games first. Second would probably be BMW. He uses a lot, and then Aston Martin is another standard Bond car. He's used like the DB7 and the DB9, I think, in different films. I mean, probably the different cars that are in the film, because I know that, you know, in each Bond film, they like highlight the Bond girl and then they highlight the Bond car. And I'm interested in cars anyway, so that's a big thing for me.
I can't remember like the specific things, but definitely like the Aston Martin, his cars, and then like his tuxes. I'm not sure what kind of tux, and like kind of in his gun. But I'm not sure if like what kind of gun he usually uses. But
Speaking not in the movie, but like related to it, is the video games. Yeah, I mean, there's like 10 of them at this point. I think probably like more. Within the movie, definitely Aston Martins in the cars. I mean, they make it a huge focal point and always have ridiculous car scene, and the clothing, the tuxedos, and everything that goes along with it. They also make sure to bring it out.
Vodka? Definitely vodka. This is the first thing I did when I was 21. I went out and bought a bunch of shit, made vodka martinis to feel like a badass. They were horrible. Yeah, cars, BMW, Mercedes. Watches might be good. I was thinking the watch laser from GoldenEye. That could work for you. That's probably it. Yeah, clothes would be good. You should have Felix lighters, sell lighters. That'd be pretty cool.
I'd start off with video games, and obviously the standard Aston Martin car. I don't know what he would drive in his earlier years. That'd be interesting to see what car he come up with. And girls, I mean, honestly, what kind of taste did he have initially? And like, I don't know. I'm sorry to call him a product.
You're in good company.
But definitely gun, suit, and then all the little gadgets that he had, like the key stunner thing, and then and all the stuff, the lighter that turned into a camera. I'm just referencing video game right now, but and then the watch laser. So yeah.
So do you think a video game would be sort of like essential to go with the launch of a TV show?
No. I
Well,
mean,
you'd have to have episodes done before you want to see a game about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I could see a video game coming later.
Mhm.
I mean, I played the Bond video games because I like to fuck shit up. I don't know if I want to play as a crappy young Bond.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played the game GoldenEye over and over again because it's just fun to run around and just completely dominate things. I mean, but it's, I don't know. You'd have to develop the series first. I could see other products like maybe launching with a sponsored watch, something like that, if you had Rolex or, you know, whatever company on board, or maybe doing car ads, but I think a video game would have to come later than the launch of the series.
Okay.
yeah, I would say not right away, but I mean it could definitely help. I guess it depends on what kind of like demographics you're going for. Like the video game won't do anything for like the older people. But
Yeah.
I guess for people of our demographics, a video game or in younger could definitely help out.
Yeah, I don't think the video game would really work at launch because no one would be too interested in it at that point, especially that early on in his career. But I feel like it would be good in between like the season's breaks, so that way it could tie people over and it would get them more interested in watching the next season.
Yep.
I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary at all. I feel like the show would need to be like 3 seasons in to have like a character with a following enough to put out a video game. So I think the show needs to be dominant at first.
I mean, initially I want to say that the video game wouldn't be necessary, but at the same time, I wonder, because it's definitely more of a low-scale type of thing compared to like the Bond movies, if a video game would actually help propel it, so, and give it a lot more publicity.
Okay. So what do you see as James Bond's motivations?
Pussy.
Pussy galore, technically.
Yeah, I mean, like, you probably want to get some pussy, you know, get money, get paid. That's about it.
We all want. Brandon.
I would go with just like being the man, just being in charge, dominant.
Yep, I agree with all three of those. I mean, basically, just getting the ladies, getting the bank, and getting the power.
That's a good question. That's they don't normally talk about it. It's like the movie just starts and he does it. I think he's. If I had to guess, I think he's just an adrenaline junkie. Like I think like it's like all those other things that white people do, like jump off buildings. Along in the same vein, it's like I'm gonna drive a car, I'm gonna fly it off this bridge and kill a bunch of people. Just I need the rush. If I had to guess.
I'd say what everyone said before: bunny, girls, power.
Yeah, I think he definitely likes feeling like he's in charge, even if he's not like. Even though M is kind of in control of him, he never really does what she wants, and he kind of does his own thing.
Okay. And how do you imagine all these motivations factoring into his decision to join MI6?
I don't know. I mean, if he wants to, push his adrenaline, if he's really motivated to kick people's asses, that's the place to be. I mean, if you're, in the military and you're really into, you probably want to be in special ops or whatever. It's just the top of the direction he's going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just go along with that answer. I guess it's the perfect. If he wants the violence, he wants the action. It's the perfect place to go. I guess.
Yeah, say aside from being able to do more exciting things, I mean, you can't get too many girls in the military, and you can obviously make more money being like working for contracts for like MI6. So I'd say that makes sense.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like you can't talk about why I want to be a secret agent. Like it loops into itself. You know what I mean? Like why do I want to be a secret agent? Oh, so I can be like James Bond and wear this tux and be awesome and score a bunch of hoes. But James Bond wouldn't know to say that because that hasn't happened yet technically. So like, I think there would have to be like some sense of duty or else he wouldn't do it. But at the same time, you're right. There ain't that many women in the military.
Can you repeat the question?
How do you see his motivations factoring into his decision of joining MI6?
Well, I mean, I thought it was entirely to find out who killed his best friend. I mean, it has to seem like that's his main thing, I guess. It would make him, like, I guess, an honorable person. So, like, it excuses all the killing and fucking up the hoes that he does.
Well performing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely to avenge his friend, but at the same time, it gives him a platform to, do his own thing and have a little bit more free reign.
Mm-hmm. So how important to you is his license to kill? Since he's in his early years, he only has that permit. How important is it that he has that license?
It's like a training permit.
I know that in the state of New Jersey, when we're starting to drive, when we have a permit,
Yeah.
we can only, drive with a parent, so does he have to have his parent with him? Or is it a different kind of permit?
You can only
Different
kill
kind of
between
permit.
5 and
As long as he still has, a license to slay pussy, I feel like the permit to kill is not that bad as long as he still, ends up killing.
Yeah.
I don't want
so
to
he
see.
still needs to kill.
I don't want to see him get his permit suspended that will not pass the permit. When he starts to get puberty or whatever. So.
Yeah, I don't really like the permit because it just changes the whole bond thing. I don't want him thinking about, am I going to get in trouble if I kill this person? Do I have permission to kill this person? So I don't really like the permit to kill thing.
I mean, I like it and I dislike it, but I like it because it can definitely, change up the pace of the show and not just make it like every single scene is a gunfight, and it can make him solve the problems in a different way. And I think it solves the problem of having to have more special effects that would be hard to afford and show them on TV. Like the only show on AMC I can think of that's really that violent is The Walking Dead. But yeah, and then I just dislike it because it kind of goes against the fun cliche of just blowing everything away at the same time.
I think it's funny. I think just the jokes I was making. What do I have? His parent has to make it. It's a funny thing, especially if he's like SAS and is ultra violent. They keep telling him no. He's like, let's come up with something else. Like that'd be a show that would result in a lot of accidental deaths. That he'd be like, wasn't me. I didn't blow up that oil tanker. Nope. Fell off the bridge on its own. Disappears. And be like, what's wrong with you? I think it's funny. I think it could be a good gimmick. I think at some point, second season, you might have to just drop it. Have him take his driver's test or whatever. But I like it. I think it's a funny gimmick.
Yes and no. I think it's both necessary and not. Yes, because it would be a funny gimmick, but not really because that would make him more badass. That like he's been killing for a long time, I guess, or how he got into killing so much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Bond for me wouldn't even take that into account that he had a permit to kill. Like he would just do it anyways. So.
No. Okay. Can you name any villains not mentioned in the concept that you would like to see maybe as characters in the show?
I think using Trevelyan, who's 006 and is originally part of MI6 and portrays them in GoldenEye, I think he could be an interesting character to bring around in the season and have like a mole inside MI6 and that whole plot that always happens in spy shows.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't really remember any villains, but I would just say this idea of like the moles and MI6.
I mean, honestly, I think it would be like very different from the movie villains because you'd have to expand the whole storyline throughout like the season. So I really don't think I could name one that I would specifically like want over any others, honestly.
Okay. Brian?
Jaws, Odd Job. I like the idea of 006, especially if 006 is like ultra badass Bond, the other Bond is like a rookie. He like always be like 2 steps ahead. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I guess 006. Not really interested in anything.
Yeah, I mean the mole idea is good, and then Odd Job would be funny as well. So.
Okay. Now, do you think it's a good idea to include Felix Leiter character in the show?
Who's that?
Felix Leiter.
Blackhead.
Phil, you could probably.
He's the Bond's main CIA friend that's been in like, God, I don't know. I think he's been depicted in maybe 6 or 7 different Bond movies. So he's like the go-to CIA
I'd say
guy for
maybe,
him.
but honestly, I have no recollection of that character. So
Is that kind of like Burn Notice almost? Have you seen
Like Bruce Campbell, you mean?
Yeah.
I also am talking till 4:47. So.
Oh yeah.
What's that?
I have talking till 4:47.
Oh, okay. If you gotta get going. Then.
I have another minute. But
Okay.
That's fine. No, he's just going to be like the
We can take off at any
quintessential
point.
sidekick to Bond on the American side.
So the question is he needed?
Is he
Or
needed?
Is he needed? I don't think he's needed. But I mean, as kind of like the irresponsible kid, he could definitely be helpful.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's really needed, and I don't think I would have that much inclusion to make him, very integral to the storyline or anything. But it could just be, like a fun or funny way to offshoot from the story now and then, or have him get advice or something like that. So that way, it just like breaks up the monotony a bit.
I like Felix Leiter. It depends on what direction you go. Like, is he like bromance Felix Leiter? Is he just is he like Robin? He's always good for like a couple of jokes about like the American military. Remember Casino Royale? Like Felix Leiter like helps him like pay the money to re-up. He's just like, he's like, what? Where'd you get $5 million? He's like, motherfucker, this is America. Of course I got the $5 million. I mean, I don't know. He could be funny from time to time, or maybe he's a mentor figure. I mean, it depends on where you go.
Yeah, I mean, not really. It could be good, but then again, it's not really necessary for the storyline, I guess. It's more about Bonds or leaving.
I don't know if it's necessary. It can give definitely another storyline to it, kind of giving another look on, America versus the Great Britain type of feel. But one thing that could be better is having a mentor almost, someone that he could go to that's actually an elder version.
So, do you think we should have a younger Bond facing off against younger versions of villains from established films, or do you think new villains should be created?
I mean, I like the idea of established villains doing a Smallville thing. I mean, I never watched Smallville, so I don't know how that actually worked, but I think that's an interesting concept and kind of may draw in more viewers than if you just make them new people, because then you may as well just create a totally different spy show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say at that last point, if you just create new villains, pretty much just a new show. But I haven't seen Smallville, so I don't know how it would relate to have the villains as younger as well. So I'm not really sure.
You gotta get going.
You gotta go, man. Take off. That's fun. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming. Grab a slice of pizza or whatever.
I'm good. Yeah, I like the idea of like younger, slightly different iterations of the villains. I mean, I think that would definitely draw in like the older demographics that have like grown up with the Bond films and have seen like all of them, and just give them another reason to watch. But I feel like they'd still have to be somewhat powerful and rich, or else it would be kind of lame if they were like starting off as low as Bond was. Like I feel like they have to have some sort of power over him to make the struggle interesting.
I kind of agree with that. I think the power thing would be essential. Plus, like, the only Bond villains I remember, one is a midget with like a throwing hat. The other one is, is just like a giant dude with metal teeth. I think those are age independent. But yeah, I think if they don't have like the kind of overwhelming power to like crush Bond, financially as opposed to physically or intellectually, they don't. I don't know if they'd be as relevant as they would need to be.
Yeah, just the authority is really important. So it's like he's always been taking down people of higher authority that I guess seem rather unlikely.
I think somebody that's like, vice president instead of president, someone that's almost there, maybe trying to take over the company. But at the same time, I do like in Smallville. Who's the bad guy? Luthor. Lex Luthor. I think. Yeah. He was old in there. It seemed as if he was an older type character, and that kind of turned me off to it because it was all kind of youth, and then he was just kind of like he already has his power, and it was kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Okay. So, does it interest you to see Bond's transition from the military and his time into British Special Forces to becoming an MI6 agent?
Yeah, it does. You see him improve his skills, I guess. Maybe a little, but not that much. I want to see him already be like a badass kind of.
Yeah, I wouldn't show so much inclusion with the military. I mean, it would probably be interesting for like an episode or two, and then showing like how he got better with the training, like special agent training, and like what better equipment he got and stuff like that. But I feel like it would be more interesting to just focus on that as opposed to the military.
I think there's some really good kind of comedic storylines in seeing Bond like almost like there would have to be like an older version. There had to be like 008 or like he wouldn't even start as 007. There'd be like another 007. He would just execute like all of these spy cliches, and Bond would be like, "Why are we doing this?" Like, "Oh, we're going to blah blah blah. You have to drive $100,000 car, take a tuxedo." It's like, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just sneak into the back door? Isn't the goal of being a spy not to be seen? And you'd be like, "Shut up. This is how we do it." I think I don't know. It depends on how you play it. Like, if you just if he's like James Bond but sucky, I don't know if I would care. If he's like super aggressive, Bruce Willis of Die Hard, renegade, versus like the spy cliche, I think you've got an angle. I don't know.
I find it interesting. I think it'd be interesting to see like what he learns from the military academy or something like that and how he applies it. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can't go too into it because at the end of the day he has to be out there like kicking ass and taking names. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, I guess, in the beginning, first 2 episodes or something.
I definitely think it's interesting. A lot of my favorite movies are military movies, so I'm a little bit biased, but I think it'll definitely give it a good progression type feel to it.
Okay. So what locations would you like to see Bond visit in the show?
Locations like cities or states.
Could be cities, could be countries, could be outer space. Hey, Moonraker.
Yeah. Definitely Great Britain, but I would say go to like kind of South America, America, come over and visit, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'd say some exotic places would be good. I mean, I couldn't say name anywhere specific off the top of my head, but somewhere that wouldn't be too cliche. At the same time, like South America would be good, and then definitely just like some cities in America, New York City, LA, or something like that. Because I mean, it would just like be kind of gimmicky, make people happy that like live there and like can associate to it.
I like the moon. I think that's a good start. There's your obligatory skiing down a mountain while shooting a thing scene. Get that in there. I don't know. You can go anywhere. Go to your wonders of the world. Got to get them covered. You can jump off the Grand Canyon like in a BMW that flies. Whatever you want to do. Detroit would be good. Let's like, what would he even do? That could be a good Felix Leiter episode. Like if he comes to America and it just doesn't work at all. Like it's just like normal cliches. Send him anywhere. I'll watch.
Yeah, anywhere abroad though. I don't really want to, I guess, see him try to run around Detroit or the Grand Canyon or anything just yet, I guess.
I mean, like, Rio de Janeiro would be cool. And then also, like, you gotta have, like, a beach scene with him coming out of the water, right? Exactly. he'd drive in his car along the ridge of a mountain, going really fast. Definitely like all the cliches ever used, but definitely not as much in America. I think it's important to switch it up between city and country.
And going between that, Bond women, what qualities would you want to see in Bond girls in TV form?
Definitely hot, like model types, I guess. But I mean, specifically, I'm not really sure. Just to add the cliche of a Bond girl, I guess.
I mean, can't really think of any like specific characteristics that would really change it to me as long as they look good. I mean, generally, whoever they bring in, I mean, she's beautiful and she has a nice body. That's all that really matters to me.
So you guys, in other words, it doesn't necessarily matter to you if she's got brains. Like she
Nope.
doesn't have to be helping to solve the plot, as long as she looks good.
No, that's not too though.
Not to me.
Well, let's get to you. What do you think?
No. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think, that's hotness. It's a short list.
No.
I mean, it depends. They need something to do. Like, are there any like who are there any like Bond girl villains, or is there like another MI6 agent who's also hot? But the also hot part needs to be there.
Yeah. Well, do you see them being one episode story arcs, or can you see any having, besides maybe Miss Moneypenny, having a larger part in like an episodic series?
I mean,
I don't know if she's an agent.
I think it'd be
She's
good.
just some hot chick. It doesn't matter.
I think she has to be a model, but at the same time, like when Halle Berry was in there, she actually seemed to be intelligent and helpful. Like I think that's an important part. Not that the woman is so entangled in it that she actually like makes Bond succeed, but that she can help him along the way in a way. As someone that's believable, someone that's not stupid in real life. Like if you were going to use like Paris Hilton, that would be like stupid because she's obviously not going to help you in real life, but a model.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like sidekicks are good one-offs. Like you said, Halle Berry was good. Felix Leiter could be a chick. and then that almost gives you your love interest who will never get because she's too smart for him, but she's still really hot.
Make Felix Leiter a chick. That's a good idea.
I don't know.
I'm sure women would like that too.
Yeah.
So given what you've heard, do you think that you would watch Bond on a weekly basis?
I would definitely watch the pilot, watch it to start. It has to be good. I'm not like he said, we're in college.
Yeah.
I don't really have time to watch. I usually watch it on the computer like later.
Yeah.
So, but I'll definitely watch it to start because I do like the Bond movies.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely watch the pilot in the first few episodes, and as long as it wasn't like mediocre quality, I would definitely stick around and watch it on a weekly basis.
I'd watch the pilot and see where it was going. If it looked kind of interesting, I'd probably Hulu the rest. I mean, I'm very reluctant to watch things like live these days. It's like you said, we got stuff to do, but something. Yeah, I would definitely watch the pilot.
I would definitely watch the pilot and see from there whether like it's something I want to follow or have it recorded. But I'd put it all into the pilot.
I mean, I definitely give it a fair chance to start out with, but if it was actually great and people were into it, then I would definitely keep checking it out. But if it was all right, then I'd be more towards Hulu than anything else.
Okay. And you guys been great. One last question. Thank you for your time. If you,
Question.
yeah, if there's one thing you could do to change, alter about the concept we provided, what would you change?
I can't really think of anything right now. Come back to me, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta think that one over as well.
Well, is there let me put it this way, is there anything like a quick knee-jerk reaction that you're like, hell no, don't do this? Is there anything that
Can
really...
you read it one more time?
The whole concept?
Sure.
Sure. All right. This is Bond TV show that would air on AMC, titled Bond. Storyline with the old James Bond, fresh off a stint with the British Special Forces, in which his best friend is killed in combat by a weapon that is manufactured by a company called Drax Industries. This incident lures Bond to join the British Secret Service MI6 in order to go after bigger corporations that ultimately led to the death of his dear friend while deployed in Afghanistan. Bond realizes this will be his only chance to be able to make a difference against the larger crime syndicates of the world. During the course of his adventures, he gets a chance to disrupt the organizations of well-known villains that you would be familiar with, such as Goldfinger, Mr. Big, Frank Sanchez, Blofeld, to name a few. Additionally, Bond will not be given a license to kill, but rather a permit to kill in the event that he's left with no choice. The job of Bond early in his career will be to disrupt the flow of these crime syndicates, and using the specialized training he gets from MI6, he'll do just that. This version of Bond would be much younger, about 22 years of age, and his personality would make him a very impatient and edgy agent in training. He would also have a great curiosity to learn as much as possible about the enemies of MI6 that he'd be going after. You will get to see a somewhat more intellectual side of Bond, and just see how his intelligence and ability to analyze his enemies is one of his better assets at his disposal. Also, this Bond will look different. He's not going to be running around in tuxedos, but rather more believable look, like a guy who's getting a start in his career. Now the villains would also be starting off with their careers, most of which are set for their own vision of world dominance. For example, Frank Sanchez, who is starting out a drug cartel in Mexico. It's his goal to have an interconnected network of drug deals with larger global cartels. Other important characters we would ultimately introduce would be the character of Felix Leiter, who's already a trained CIA agent in the United States. Leiter will run into Bond on his first mission to investigate why Drax Industries Corporation is illegally supplying terrorist organizations to the Middle East with electronic weaponry. Essentially, the concept of this show will be very similar to hit TV series Smallville, in that we will put another iconic character at an early point of his life up against the same enemies that audiences were used to seeing in the established films that came before the TV series. This series won't fall into the same canon as the films, but utilize many of the same characters to provide the opportunity for new and exciting outcomes with week-to-week storylines.
Alright, I mean, I thought of something. I don't really know if I would go with the idea that it's a certain weapon manufactured by a company, because, I mean, it could either be like a regular gun, and then it's just sort of like, I don't know why you specifically go after who manufactured the gun, or if it's like a crazy advanced piece of technology. I mean, it could come off as like gimmicky, or with like a TV budget, like the use of it might not seem so good. So like, I guess I would change it. I mean, to like a mercenary group that was contracted by like a big industrial company, or like somebody that was contracted by them, I guess. I mean, I think it would just be like a bit more believable, and just like not make it as like cliche, I guess.
One thing that I would change about what I said earlier is, I guess, Europe. I think the Middle East is a good idea, just because it's kind of current. And I don't know if he was over there, and that's like I think that would have much more of a following now, especially in our age, because I guess in our age we're now starting to be much more knowledgeable globally, I guess. So, and that's what we're interested in right now, considering what we're going through in our country, I guess. So, yeah, stick with the Middle East. And second, the idea that he might not be as cool, I think he should be like the man going to the military academy, and like this is why like he's so highly touted, or like Bond is such a name that like holds credit, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to keep his persona about him. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as refined, but still, he's still the man. And also, I think it's going to be really important at the beginning to make sure that you include why he's doing this, like with his friend, and actually devote some of the initial episode to that, so that people can feel connected to it, and maybe not necessarily just flashbacks or something like that.
The best friend thing is creepy. I would change that to his girlfriend. Maybe like gets killed in a terrorist bombing or something. I think that's strong motivation.
I would just keep like what he said. I would have him be cool when he was younger. He'd be cocky, but even though he's still not as experienced. But that was really the only thing.
So it should be an established James Bond. The James Bond we know, he's just younger.
Yeah.
He's still the shit, but
yeah.
he's younger. And also,
I feel like
he's even cooler because he's much more rebellious, I guess. I don't know, or not.
Loose cannon on deck.
Yeah.
Is more erratic. Yeah.
I feel like he should be like definitely like talented and like smart and badass, but he shouldn't be like automatically overcoming every obstacle. I feel like he should still have like some limitations, but still be like really good and ahead of like everybody else that he's around, but like not by leaps and bounds.
Okay.
I mean, and one thing I always wondered was like he has like no connection to anybody, like his family's dead. So I think that girlfriend thing, or his wife or something like that, that he got married to right out of high school or something like that, she died, so that he doesn't have any connection to anybody. He doesn't feel like has a homeland or anything. It's him just trying to go out and avenge her death.
Okay. Anybody have anything else to add? All right, thanks.
Can I get all your names again? Like in order, what was your first?
Brandon Rollins.
Brandon, how do you spell the last name?
Rollins.
All right, how about you?
Michael Laidley, Laidley.
right?
And you'll
I
all
know.
get extra credit, except for you, Brandon.
And then you, sir, what's your name on the
Joseph Diaz.
Joseph Diaz?
D-I-A-Z.
And then you.
Steven with a PH. And then Rathbun, Rathbun.
Okay. And you guys spell. You know what the name of the lad who left was? Elliot. Is it?
Elliot, yeah.
Elliot.
And last name is Kartus.
Kartus. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
You got a lot of
Thank you.
great answers. Feedback. Hope you guys have fun. Take some pizza with you if you want to go.